Robert De Niro never chased popularity. He chased truth at 82. De Niro finally spoke about the actors he never respected, not because of fame or rivalry, but because of discipline, integrity, and how seriously they treated the craft. According to those who worked closely with him, De Niro had little patience for shortcuts, egos, or performances built on image rather than substance. These are the 6 actors Robert De Niro believed crossed that line, and why respect was something they never earned. Steven Seagal style, without substance. Robert De Niro has always viewed acting as a craft built on discipline, preparation, and emotional truth. Throughout his decades-long career, he's championed a philosophy rooted in transformation, the idea that an actor must become the character rather than simply perform a version of themselves. According to industry recollections and those who've worked alongside both men, this philosophy clashed sharply with Steven Seagal's approach, which De Niro reportedly saw as image-driven rather than character-driven. Seagal's on-screen persona relied heavily on mystique and physical dominance, often repeating the same mannerisms, vocal patterns, and body language across roles. Whether playing a cop, a special operative, or a martial arts expert, Seagal brought an unchanging presence to the screen. His characters spoke in the same measured tone, moved with identical confidence, and resolved conflicts through similar action sequences. To casual viewers, this might have seemed like consistency, recognizable brand, but to De Niro, it represented something fundamentally different. Limitation. Don De Niro respected actors who disappeared into characters, who risked embarrassment and vulnerability in pursuit of truth. He admired performers willing to shed their own identity completely to adopt different walks, voices, psychological profiles, and physical transformations. Colleagues later recalled that De Niro valued vulnerability and risk above almost everything else, qualities he felt were conspicuously absent in Seagal's work. Where De Niro saw acting as an exercise in empathy and exploration, Seagal's performances seemed to reinforce a singular image of invincibility. This wasn't personal animosity, nor was it rooted in jealousy or competition. It was a rejection of shortcuts, of fundamental disagreement about what acting meant and what it demanded from its practitioners. For De Niro, acting demanded humility before the role. It required an actor to ask, "Who is this person?" rather than "How can this person be like me?" Seagal's reliance on persona suggested the opposite approach, an unwillingness to surrender ego in service of character, and that was something De Niro could never respect. Regardless of box office success or audience appeal, Nicolas Cage. Intensity without control. Nicolas Cage is celebrated for fearless, unpredictable performances that push boundaries and challenge conventions. His willingness to take risks has earned him both critical acclaim and cult devotion. Robert De Niro, however, has long believed that intensity without control weakens authenticity rather than strengthening it. According to industry accounts and those familiar with his perspective, De Niro viewed Cage's extremes as performative rather than truthful spectacle masquerading as depth. De Niro's method prioritized restraint and precision. He believed emotion should be revealed slowly, deliberately, and with calculated purpose. Every gesture, every pause, every shift in expression needed to serve the character's internal journey. His performances were constructed like architecture, each element supporting the whole, nothing excessive or unnecessary. Cage's approach, by contrast, embraced chaos, volume, and sudden shifts in energy. His characters could explode without warning, cycling through emotional registers at breakneck speed. To De Niro, this felt less like genuine exploration and more like exhibition acting designed to impress rather than illuminate. He didn't deny Cage's commitment or question his passion. Cage clearly threw himself into roles with total abandon, often enduring physical and psychological challenges to achieve his vision. But De Niro questioned the discipline behind its a structural foundation that should guide such intensity. De Niro believed great performances are built on precision and control. Even when depicting chaos, the actor must remain the master of the performance, shaping it with intention rather than surrendering to impulse. When intensity overwhelms structure, the character dissolves into caricature. The performance becomes about the actor's energy rather than the character's truth. That philosophical divide left De Niro unconvinced that Cage's approach represented genuine craft ultimately, deeply unimpressed by what he perceived as undisciplined excess, masquerading as artistic courage. Adam Sandler. Early career casualness. Robert De Niro has publicly acknowledged Adam Sandler's later dramatic growth, particularly praising performances that revealed unexpected range and emotional depth. But early in Sandler's career, insiders suggest De Niro struggled to take him seriously as a legitimate actor. Sandler's relaxed attitude, improvisational style, and comedic persona felt disconnected from the rigor and reverence De Niro associated with the acting profession. De Niro came from a tradition where preparation was sacred and non-negotiable. Scripts were studied exhaustively, characters dissected psychologically, backstories invented, and choices weighed carefully against the story's emotional architecture. He worked with directors like Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, who demanded total commitment and meticulous attention to detail. Every line reading mattered. Every moment carried weight. Sandler's early comedies appeared effortless, almost dismissive of such craft. His characters often spoke in goofy voices, relied on juvenile humor, and seemed designed more for laughs than for truth. The performances felt casual, as if comedy didn't require the same preparation as drama. For someone who had transformed himself completely for Raging Bull, gaining 60 pounds and learning to box professionally, this approach seemed to trivialize the art form. To De Niro, effort mattered even in comedy, perhaps especially in comedy, which he viewed as one of the most difficult forms of acting when done well. Great comedy required timing, precision, and an understanding of human behavior just as sophisticated as any dramatic role. Sandler's early work didn't demonstrate those qualities, while respect may have evolved over time, particularly after films like Uncut Gems revealed Sandler's capacity for intensity and nuance. The initial impression lingered. For De Niro, early habits revealed priorities. They showed what an actor valued and how seriously they took their responsibility. And Sandler's didn't align with his own, creating a gulf that years and evolution could narrow but never fully bridge. Jim Carrey. Performance over truth. Jim Carrey's physical comedy and elastic performances earned massive commercial success and a devoted following. His ability to contort his face, transform his body, and generate energy seemed limitless. But according to those familiar with De Niro's perspective, he viewed Carrey's style as fundamentally theatrical, rather than grounded entertainment, rather than art. De Niro believed acting should emerge from internal motivation, not external exaggeration. A character's emotions and actions should flow from psychology, history, and circumstance. The performance should feel inevitable, as if the character couldn't behave any other way. Carrey's expressions, movements, and manic energy often dominated the frame, leaving little room for subtlety or psychological complexity. His performances announced themselves loudly, demanding attention rather than inviting observation. This wasn't disdain for comedy as a genre. De Niro had worked in comedies himself and deeply respected comedic performers who understood restraint and timing. He admired actors who could be funny while remaining truthful, who could generate laughs without abandoning character. But he was skeptical toward performances that prioritized impact over authenticity. De Niro respected comedians who could restrain themselves, who understood that sometimes the smallest gesture carried more truth than the largest. Carrey's apparent refusal to pull back felt excessive and undisciplined. A performance that called attention to itself rather than serving the story or illuminating the character. Where De Niro saw acting as a process of revelation, gradually exposing a character's inner life, Carrey's work seemed to operate on the surface, all energy and movement without psychological depth. It was impressive, certainly, but to De Niro's sensibility, it wasn't acting in the truest sense. It was something else entirely. Marlon Brando. Genius without responsibility. Robert De Niro deeply admired Marlon Brando's early work and considered him one of the greatest actors in cinema history. Brando's performances in A Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather represented everything De Niro believed acting could achieve: raw, honest, transformative, and profound. But according to industry recollections and accounts from those who worked with both actors, De Niro's respect diminished significantly as Brando's discipline faded and his behavior on set became increasingly erratic and unprofessional, forgetting lines, ignoring scripts, demanding cue cards in increasingly absurd places, and testing the patience of crews and fellow actors became common occurrences in Brando's later career. He showed up overweight and unprepared, demanded exorbitant fees for minimal work, and seemed to treat filmmaking as beneath him, something he had transcended through his genius. To De Niro, genius was never an excuse for negligence. Talent didn't exempt anyone from basic professional responsibility. He believed responsibility to collaborators, directors, fellow actors, crew members mattered as much as individual talent. Filmmaking was inherently collaborative, requiring mutual respect and shared commitment. When one person treated their contribution as optional or approached their work with contempt, it damaged everyone. Brando's later behavior represented a betrayal of the craft De Niro held sacred, while audiences and critics often excused it as eccentricity or the privilege of genius. De Niro saw something else: entitlement. He saw someone who had benefited enormously from the respect and support of others, now refusing to offer that same respect in return. He didn't reject Brando's legacy or deny his contributions to acting. Those early performances remained monumental, but he rejected how that legacy was used: justification for laziness, as permission to disrespect the process and the people involved. To De Niro, greatness carried responsibility, not exemption from it. Sylvester Stallone. Persona. Before performance, Sylvester Stallone built an empire on iconic characters, creating some of cinema's most recognizable figures. Rocky Balboa and John Rambo became cultural touchstones, representing resilience, determination, and triumph against impossible odds. Robert De Niro, however, has long favored transformation over brand recognition. According to observers and industry colleagues, De Niro viewed Stallone's career as fundamentally driven by persona rather than immersion, by the reinforcement of a singular identity rather than the exploration of diverse characters. De Niro believed the actor should vanish into the role completely. When watching a De Niro performance, audiences shouldn't see the actor, they should see only the character, fully realized and distinct. He transformed physically, vocally, and psychologically for each role, ensuring that Travis Bickle bore no resemblance to Jake LaMotta, and that neither resembled Rupert Pupkin. Each character existed independently, with unique mannerisms, speech patterns, and psychological profiles. Stallone's characters, by contrast, often reinforced the same image: strength, resilience, physical dominance, and working-class authenticity. Whether playing a boxer, a soldier, or an action hero, Stallone brought recognizable elements of Stallone-ness to the screen. His voice, his physicality, his emotional register remained consistent. Audiences came to see Stallone play variations on a theme rather than disappear into vastly different people. This approach conflicted fundamentally with De Niro's belief that acting requires surrender, a willingness to abandon one's own identity in service of the character. When an actor's personal identity overshadows the character they're portraying, authenticity suffers. The performance becomes about maintaining a brand rather than discovering truth. De Niro didn't deny Stallone's success or his impact on popular culture. Stallone had created enduring characters and built a remarkable career, but De Niro questioned its artistic depth. Whether success measured in box office receipts and cultural recognition truly represented the highest achievement in acting, or whether it simply demonstrated effective self-marketing and audience appeal. Robert De Niro didn't withhold respect lightly. For him, respect was earned through discipline, humility, and commitment to the work. After a lifetime in Hollywood, he understood that success often excused behavior, but he refused to excuse it himself. While many adapted to the industry, De Niro held his standards firm. In a world built on reputation and image, his refusal to compromise may have been his most defining trait, and for Robert De Niro, that mattered more than being liked.